This lesson is on properties of parallel lines. The goal is to use the properties of parallel lines to find angle measures. The standard is congruence, number 9. The main thing to understand in this lesson is that the special angle pairs formed by parallel lines and a transversal are either congruent, supplementary, or both. Let's take a look at same side interior angles or consecutive angles. Now if you remember, same side interior means that they are inside of the two lines and they are on the same side of the transversal. So if a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then the same side interior angles are supplementary. Based on that, angles 4 and 5 added together would be 180, and angles 3 and 6, if you add them together, they would equal 180. Alternate interior angles are angles that are in between the two lines but on opposite sides of the transversal. If a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then alternate interior angles are congruent. So, whatever measure angle 4 is, angle 6 will be the same. Whatever measure 3 is, the measurement of angle 5 will be exactly the same. Corresponding angles are angles that are on the same side of the transversal in corresponding positions. So angle 2 and angle 6 are corresponding. 3 and 7 are corresponding. 1 and 5 are corresponding, and 4 and 8 are corresponding. If a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then corresponding angles are congruent. So the measurements of 1 and 5 are the same, 4 and 8 are the same. So angles 2 and 6 have the same measurements, and angles 3 and 7 also have the same measurements. Alternate exterior angles are outside the two parallel lines on opposite sides of the transversal. If a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then alternate exterior angles are congruent. That means angles 1 and angle 7 have the same measurement. Angle 2 and angle 8 also have the same measurements. Now we're going to kind of put everything that we know and we've learned together. It says to identify all angles congruent to the one shown. This angle right here is 65 degrees. Vertical angles, or kissing fish, are also congruent. So we have angle 1 is congruent. We also know that alternate interior angles are congruent. That makes angle 7 congruent. And corresponding angles are congruent. Angle 4 is corresponding with that angle, so angle 4 is also congruent to that angle right there. When we have parallel lines cut by a transversal, there will always be 4 angles that are congruent. They gave us 1, we just had to find the other 3. Here's your practice problem. It says to identify all angles congruent to the one shown. So we're looking for all the angles that are congruent to that. Remember, there are 4 that are congruent. You've been given 1. Find the other 3 that are congruent to that angle. Here's another question. What are the values of x and what are the measures of the two angles? Here we have a trapezoid with 4 angle measurements, and they want me to find the value of x. So how do I figure that out? Well, first of all, I notice that the angles right there have X, and the other two angles are Y. So by just looking at them, I can tell that I'm going to be using those two measurements. But how do I find out what they are? Well, they're both inside. If you think of these as parallel lines, right there, you'd notice that they're inside the two parallel lines. Therefore, they are same side, which means they add up to 180 degrees. So you would take 2x plus x minus 12 and set it equal to 180 degrees. I'm going to add 2x plus 1x. 3x minus 12 equals 180. I'm going to add 12 to both sides of the equal sign. I end up with 3x equals 192. When I divide both sides by 3, I get x equals 64. So now I just need to plug in 64 for x to find out what the measurements are. So I have x, or 2x, which is 2 times 64. That's 128. And the other one is x minus 12. So that's 64 minus 12. That equals 52 degrees. And if I added those two measurements up, they would equal 180. So the values of the two measures are 128 degrees and 52 degrees. Your question is to find the values of y and what the value of the measures and what are the measures of those two angles. So I've already done the x's for you. Now it's your turn to do the y's. Practice 3. If lines JL and MO are parallel lines and the measurement of angle MNP equals 57 degrees, what is the measurement of angle MNK? The first thing you should always do is find out which angle you're looking at. Angle MNP is right there. You need to find the other angle and figure what its measurement is. Practice 4. If lines OQ and RT are parallel lines and the measurement of angle RSU equals 130 degrees, what is the measurement of angle TSP? Again, find out what angle we're looking at, and it's angle RSU. It's that angle right there. You need to find out where the other angle is and what the measurement of that one is. Practice 5. If lines GI and JL are parallel lines and the measurement of IHK equals 138 degrees, what is the measurement of LKM? So let's find angle IHK. IHK would be right there. You need to find the other angle and determine its measure. Your final practice problem is to find which solution for the value x in the figure at the right is wrong and explain why it's wrong. Now, if you look back at your other practice problem, you should be able to determine which one is wrong pretty easily. So where are you on the scale after watching this video? I don't get it, I sort of get it, I got this, or I'm so good I can teach this. If you are at I don't get it, I would go back and watch the video again. Hopefully you are at I sort of get it, or I got this, and you can go on to your assignment. And that's the end of this lesson.